Hello again, and thanks for checking out the Back to Formula podcast, where two longtime friends continue to entertain each other and others with our pop culture or nerd pop culture discussions. My name is Jordan. I'm here with my co-host,
Christian.
Hey, everybody. So we're back this week to, talk about our Phase 2 discussion of the DC Cinematic Universe. Last episode, we did Phase 1, where we kind of touched base on Green Lantern, Man of Steel, and Batman vs. Superman. And now this week, we got, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, and Justice League, right?
That is correct. And I found it kind of funny how you said Phase 2. Like, I wonder how much they're going to be like, oh, what a Marvel shill, am I right?
Yeah, well, if people listen to the last episode, they're going to sit there and say that, oh, you're a Marvel shill, you hate DC. But that's not even really the case. I actually like Wonder Woman. It's one of the better DC films. Honestly, it's probably one of the better DC films out of the three in this discussion, but we'll open that can of worms when we get to it.
Not getting into too many spoilers when we got these things lined up, but I would say on the contrary, we don't have any bias towards these movies, at least I would say. I think we just like to break down what we like and don't like about it and see what outweighs the other. But
I just don't tolerate garbage.
I'm just not going to say that I enjoy something if I really don't feel it adds up to that. And if that makes me biased in other people's eyes, that's fine. But yes, like you said today, we got Suicide Squad, we got Wonder Woman, we got Justice League, and possibly others. So before we get into this talk, have you had any updated thoughts when it comes to our previous DC movies that we talked about going into this section? Without giving too much away, do you have any different thoughts about DC's progression in this phase alone, or is it still the same that you think it's a mixed bag like last time?
I had to say, with this group of movies, I think this is kind of where they started heading down the semi-right direction. I mean, you can't really talk too much about Suicide Squad. I think Wonder Woman was a step up. And then Justice League was kind of just, butchered because it was pretty much two directors' movies. So after that,
right.
I'm excited for the next one because you get to talk about Aquaman and Shazam. So that's kind of when I think things started turning around.
We got some things to look forward to for sure.
Before we start, I do just kind of want to do some check-ins and kind of see how life is. I feel like the audience doesn't really know a whole lot about what it is that we do. We don't have to go into detail, but how have you been these last couple of weeks? It's working from home.
It is what it is. Right now we are on May 1st. This is Friday, 2020. I'd say maybe in the middle brunt of it all with the COVID situation. Not to bitch and moan too much about that, but with us, they got us all working from home. I work for an insurance company, and everyone seems to be getting pretty tired at this point. I love being home. I'm a homebody. I could really deal with not going out too much, but I think after so long, it's almost like, man, I just wish this stuff was over. I miss going to the movies, miss going to stores and different non-essential places that I didn't have to really worry about like I do now. But all things considered, family, we got that. At least I'm happy I have a job. I know there's people who aren't as lucky. And we get to talk movies and shit on the weekend. So I really don't have any right to be complaining. But I really do miss the way things were, and I hope they go back to it pretty soon. But that's all I can say for now. How about you?
Yeah, same for me as well. I work customer service for a phone company, and like you said, I'm fortunate enough to work from home. Wife and I both. I think pretty much hit the nail on the head as far as how I'm feeling about it too. I was really, really hoping that shit would go back to normal starting today, but it didn't happen. I guess they're still holding us off until May 15th. So there's that. Ironically, that's the day before me and my wife's anniversary. So I'm kind of hoping that we get to go and do something. I can go to the gym. I don't know. And fun fact, before we dive in, Costco is making people wear surgical masks when they go in the store now. It's a requirement.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that is the actual thing. Because my wife, she actually ordered surgical masks, and I'm like, okay, it's fine and all. But she's like, yeah, Costco's required. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'm just going to have to deal with it then, because I have a Sam's Club and a Costco membership, and each place has different shit that I need, so I'm just going to have to suck it up.
Yeah, I've been hearing that people need these masks, and I haven't seen it out there personally. I mean, I was just at Fry's the other day, and so far I don't see that. I don't see that enforced. But if I never been to Costco, so if I had to go there, I probably couldn't right now, which is crazy. It's really weird.
Definitely weird times that we're living in. It's definitely is going to go down in the book of history. That's for damn sure. Um, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't really. I think that kind of. I don't know. I think that's pretty much it about this COVID shit. I say we just.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to complain too much. I mean, we're lucky, all things considered. It's just
Yeah.
weird how other generations have like the Y2K and different stuff going on. You know, economic problems, and we got this disease shit going on. Which who would have thought 2020 would start off so great?
Yeah. Enter the decade with a fucking bang.
Now, and talking about Big Bangs, how about we talk about the Big Bang that's known as the Suicide Squad? Or I shouldn't say that's the next movie with James Gunn, but Suicide Squad with
Fuck
David Ayer.
Marvel.
Fuck Marvel! All right, anyway. And who do we got here? We got Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. We got Will Smith. We got Jai Courtney.
Fucking Jai Courtney is Captain Boomerang.
Great Captain Boomerang, legendary DC comic character. Who else we got?
Flag, Amanda Waller,
Flag, that is,
Enchantress, Jared Leto,
which is funny. Jared Leto Joker,
Jared Leto.
yeah, which had a big amount of buildup. I don't know if you remember because it's crazy different now, Joker times, but before there was like so much of a big push for this, and people were like against him, for him. Do you remember all that hype?
Yeah, I think a lot of what it was just how they fucking designed the guy. Like he's got tattoos all over him. He's got fucking like the grill metal, the grills in, and just really like gangster-esque type looking rapper looking Joker. And I mean, yeah, I'm not really the biggest fan of it. I think it's like really cheesy.
And we can get into that for sure. I know that was a big thing that they wanted to do different, and they succeeded in making a different Joker for sure. And this, of course, was following BVS, and it's supposed to be. Some people compare this movie to the DC attempt at making a Guardians of the Galaxy, a bunch of misfits, weird characters. Who, yeah, and it's kind of weird when you think about it, right? Because it's. I'm not saying it's a carbon copy. I'm not saying that for anybody who wants to jump on that. It is different, but I can kind of see what people are saying when they make that comparison with these odd characters coming together to try to make this story work about them coming together. And again, directed by David Ayer. This came out in 2016, and it came out to very divisive reviews. A lot of overpowering positive before the movie came out for a lot of people who wanted this movie to succeed. And then when it came out, critics trashed on it, which I think is very fair to say. I think last time I saw it's like, a 23% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics. And wondering how you feel about that. How you feel about that rating.
I feel like it's fair. I think maybe 30 could have been it. Because, I mean, there was some stuff that I enjoyed from an entertainment aspect, but
right.
From a quality aspect, it was pretty shitty. I remember seeing this movie in theaters because, I mean, I thought it would be at least like a cool looking movie. And, I mean, yeah, there's some cool visuals in it. But, I mean, overall, it just doesn't really like hold over to this day. I think it's worse than I remember it. I actually did watch it the first time. Like, it definitely has just not aged well at all. Now, I do want to kind of go plot by plot or like sequence by sequence in the movie. I mean, I think we can kind of do what we did with Man of Steel and BVS and kind of do the same thing for the rest of these movies if you want.
Yeah, I was thinking we could do that as well. Kind of going through the different plot points and go from there. And I remember seeing this movie when it first came out as well. I think it was even opening weekend, and I did think it was a lot better than revisiting it recently, just a couple days ago. Not as great as I remember. It doesn't age well. And the first thing I wanted to start off with, which is the beginning, is the introduction to not only this movie, but the characters. I feel like the way it presents everything with each characters being shown in this weird, abrupt editing style, it almost feels like a music video. God. and it carries
Dude.
throughout the movie. But that's how you see these characters, right? Like it's you get a lot of exposition and then a music song, but a song to accompany what you're seeing with these characters, and it's kind of a different way to bring them in, isn't it?
Oh yeah, like it felt like a fucking it was essentially a 2 hour music video is what the whole movie felt like. I mean, besides the, the climax of the movie, yeah, it didn't really feel like a music video at that point. But like you said, and that's one of my complaints with this movie is just the very choppy camera cuts and editing. Like, not only is it, oh, we're gonna cut here, we're gonna cut there, but like the whole editing on screen, like the weird like transitions and like the weird colors, I think they wanted to give it like a really wacky kind of feel, but I don't think it just bowled over very well.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I can't really sit here and say, "Oh, they were just trying to annoy you and throw so much," because it's not really that. I just feel like they were trying so hard to give it this distinct funky feel. Funky is not the right word. It's what you said before. They're trying to make it colorful, almost kind of for like an edgy crowd who loves the darker side of DC characters, and it's just weird because you're not really seeing these characters. Or you're not really seeing these characters as people. It's almost like you hear Amanda Waller, oh, this is Deadshot. He does this, and then you get a title card with him standing in front.
She goes, she basically goes to this meeting with David Arbor, and she's talking to this government official because that's how the movie starts. Is that Superman's dead. She realizes and knows that Superman's dead, and now she's like, oh, I need to put my own team together to keep threats like this from happening. And she goes with David Arbor and talks to this government official. And like you said, that's when all the choppy camera editing starts coming in. She talks about Deadshot. She talks about Harley Quinn, which, by the way, I think she's like worse in this movie than she was in Birds of Prey. I think she's far more sexualized in this movie. And I almost got like a weird kind of like pimp kind of esque relationship between her and Joker.
Right. It's like they were trying
to. I felt like he was like pimping her out in the movie.
Which then goes into a later scene, which is funny, but you're touching on exactly
what. No beef. You want no beef?
You're you don't want no beef. You don't want no beef.
You don't want no beef.
And you're getting past it, but absolutely is what I'm getting at. It's the audience being told, hey, this is this character. This is what's about this character. Here's this guy. This is what this person does. And it's just so abrupt, and I feel like that's not the way that it might have been presented at first. I feel like there's a different version where you actually see these characters and follow along with who they are and learn about them, besides just being explained who they are like you're at a lecture. And it's really funny because I feel like after the scene and you're abruptly told who everyone is, I start comparing it to other DC characters. Like, imagine if you saw, for example, not to just talk about how great Marvel is or anything, but just to give an example, Guardians of the Galaxy. They do a little bit of this later in the movie when they all meet up together, but it's like, what if the movie started and it's like, here's Drax, here's what he do, here's what he does, here's Groot, here's where he's from, this is what he does, here's Gamora. Like, you know how weird that would be? It's kind of how it is in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
It's odd. I don't know.
That's definitely how it is. It's very weird, man. It just doesn't work. Like, they show Captain Boomerang getting caught by Flash. On that, and then also
you don't like that?
I mean, I thought it was kind of cool, but like, I'm not the biggest fan of Choker Miller, so I'm just kind of like about that. I mean, I think it's cool that they solidify us in the same universe, obviously, but as far as like, oh my god, that's so cool because Flash is in this movie, it didn't really do much for me. I also think it's funny how Killer Croc is in this movie too, but he has really like no background about how he got captured, like Deadshot and Harley Quinn do.
He's just
like,
there.
He's just in there. And he's just there, even though he's a Batman villain. And I think he mentions Batman once or twice, but nothing else is really mentioned.
Exactly, yeah. And I do have some other things to say about Killer Croc. Now, before we get into that, you did mention going into the next scene after you see everybody introduced. Harley Quinn, I like Margot Robbie, and I feel like she was really trying her best to be Harley Quinn to the best that she could. David Ayer does talk about how he tried to do his best to make it comic accurate. And I know you feel like she's over-sexualized, and I would agree, because in Birds of Prey, she's not as bad as she is in this one. And even though she is like that in some comics, and I know we were talking about the Arkham games earlier, she's sexualized in that, I just feel like the way it's done in this movie, it's really trying hard to.
Eye
And
candy.
it's kind of off-putting when you see it for what it is, like the whole licking the bars shit. I'm just like, really? Like, really? You know?
Yeah, it's cringe is what it is. Like it's the bar licking, the her dancing on dudes in the club, like
Killing Common.
it's cringe.
Well, she doesn't kill him,
it's yeah, it's just like super cringe. Like, I mean, I did think it was cool that, you know, they showed Batman chasing them down the street and, you know, Joker leaves her and, you know, Batman knocks her ass out. So I thought that was, you know, one of the cool things in the movie.
I do like that whole part.
This
It
is
does
also,
make it feel like it's part of the same universe, and I think Affleck is good in those scenes. Not all the ones he's in, but I do like.
oh yeah, he's a spoon-fed Batman. Don't forget that Amanda Waller has to tip this dude on where Deadshot is at, and then all of a sudden he shows up to beat his ass, and he's like, "I don't want to do this in front of your daughter," and he proceeds to beat his ass again. Like,
I want to
like for a dude. For a dude who had his parents killed in Crime Alley, he's saying that he doesn't want to beat this dude's ass in front of his daughter, and he goes and does it.
He proceeds to do it right afterwards. Like, dude, you would think, like, this is a big deal to Batman, and I just feel like every other incarnation of Batman would find another way to do this. Or follow him, find out where he's going, something. Why, if you're not going to do it in front of her daughter, which I understand.
He can't. But no, he can't follow him because he had to be tipped. He had to be anonymously tipped by Amanda Waller, or else he would lose him because this Batman in this universe can't do detective work.
I feel like
he needs everything spoon-fed to him.
Every time Batman's talking to Amanda Waller, he has like a notebook. He's like writing all this shit down.
He's got a Big Mac in his hands while he's talking to Amanda Waller.
And a fifth penny in the other hand.
That suit. Can't even fit his bat suit.
All right.
Yeah, Alfred, write that down.
Alfred. All right, cool.
Fucking spoon-fed Batman. Anyway, so that's basically what happens. Like, you get the intro. I will say that I think that El Diablo, minus the stupid tattoos, I thought he was one of the better characters and gave one of the better performances in the movie.
I like how subtle he is. He's a very subdued character up until he's needed not to do that. But I do like when you find out what happened to him and why he is the way he is. It kind of works, you know, besides the weird appearance, like you said. I feel like acting-wise and the way he portrayed him, I do enjoy him as well.
Yeah, same here. And, I mean, basically, you fast forward, Rick Flag is with the girl who's supposed to be Enchantress. Enchantress pulls one over on him because her brother starts, you know, fucking things up in Central City subway. And that's basically where they get tasked to go and, you know, take care of this issue, and, you know, they can't leave or escape or else they'll, you know, explode. You know, the heads will explode. And you know, and the one part where they're suiting up, again, the music video shit, you know, like, oh, you know, Will Smith takes what does he do with the guns? He starts shooting them at the gun range, but of course you hear music in the back.
No, he can't just go there and just start shooting and, you know, having a wow factor moment where you see how talented he really is. It's when some person or some character in this movie is demonstrating their worth for the plot or their worth as a character, there's always got to be this montage with music, and it's just like you're watching a music video. I know we keep saying that over and over and over, but that really is how it feels. And at times you're like, am I watching a movie or am I not? You know what I mean?
Right, and I can't even like enjoy and take the movie for what it is. And then, you know, minus that part, you know, Harley Quinn's putting her outfit on.
The camera pans up, you see her
extra. Yeah, you got her extra small shorts, and she looks around and says, "What?" And then everybody else goes back to walking. I cringed so hard when I saw that.
Did you really?
Yes, it's not funny. Like, it's so fucking cringe and typical, dude. I like rolled my eyes when I saw that. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, man, the camera's slowly going up. She's changing. It does a long shot. You see everybody oogling over her. What's going on?
God, dude. And then, like I said, we're basically just trying to sum this up, and we're just trying to, you know, talk about what it is that we like and don't like. And I really feel like Suicide Squad is very cut and dry. I would say that you would say that, right?
And it's cut and dry. A problem that I have is not only the setup that we've complained about here. It's the continuation of what is the actual story of this. Because, like you said, we have Amanda Waller. She starts up this program talking about, hey, what happens if Superman is evil and comes back and snatches the president? Or he doesn't say that. She doesn't say that, but the point is they're wondering what are they going to do? And her plan.
And they also throw the word terrorist around a lot too, like a terrorist this, terrorist that. Like, why does everything have to be a fucking terrorist? Like, why can't they just be a supervillain or a metahuman with bad intentions? Like, why does the word terrorist have to always be thrown around?
Right, that's true. They can't ever just say like a criminal mind or something, or some guy or a radicalist. They just like terrorist. It's well, what if a terrorist happens? You know, it's kind of weird. And her plot is that she's like, how about if we get all these villains together and we can have them as a backup to fight whatever evil entity comes to threaten us. And that as a concept for this movie with these characters, I just don't think it works throughout the whole thing, because when you go through this movie, you see, yeah, they're doing it against their will. They have a mission to do. They get things implanted in their necks to make their heads blow up if they step out of line. I get it. It's not like that doesn't make sense to me, but I don't think it's ever properly explained why these people are the ones who are needed to defend, because I don't think they can do shit. Harley Quinn can't do shit. Deathshot's good with a gun, but what's that going to do against an evil Superman? What is Killer Croc and Captain Boomerang going to do in this movie? It just never sets this up when they already show that there's real superheroes already. You see the Flash, you see Batman.
I think it's more of like a expendable kind of thing. Like, oh, you guys are expendable, so you either die doing it, like she says multiple times in the movie, or, you know, you live doing it, but you get some time shaved off your prison sentence, or they get, you know, little perks here and there while they're serving their time.
Definitely.
I think that's kind of like, I kind of think that's like their driving force, which again is not really that much of a motivation factor. I really only think the person who really only had true motivation was Deadshot, because of his daughter. I think everybody else was just kind of like, we don't really care. I mean, yeah, I just don't want to die, so yeah, fuck it, I'll help.
Which is true. I'll give you that. It's not always that the characters themselves don't have a reason for moving forward and doing what they do. Even if they don't have a backstory like Deadshot, what the fuck else are they going to do? Rot in prison, right? I get that, and I understand the need for a situation that needs it. I just think that when the story progresses, because here's what happens. Enchantress is actually taken over by the lady who was holding her, who is actually Rick Flag's girlfriend. So they went excavating in this other country, stumbled upon the Enchantress. She took over her, right? So from there, she was supposed to be part of the Suicide Squad, and when she ends up being the villain, spoiler alert, she ends up being taken over by the Enchantress, and the Enchantress goes out to free her brother, and they're going to pretty much go out and take over the world and destroy the whole planet, basically. That threat was not only caused by Amanda Waller. What doesn't work for me is how everybody agrees, oh, her plan, set up her plan, grab everybody that she needs, we need to take care of this person, because it's not like a Suicide Squad level threat in this movie for me. I think that's what doesn't work for me. It's not like...
You think it's on a bigger scale?
It's too big of a scale for them. And when we see moments like when Captain Boomerang tries to throw something at someone and it doesn't work, and then he's like, oh, well, that's all I got. I like Killer Croc as a character, which I will talk about him more later. I know I keep saying that, but everybody that they got, I feel like this story would have been more suited for some kind of crazy hostage situation, or they got to take care of a situation in another country with some kind of extremist who's doing something crazy. That would have been more suited, at least for this movie. I just don't think setting them up against this big world-ending plot with a giant laser beam in the sky, Harley Quinn is not going to do shit against it. Neither are any of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what takes me out of the movie, at least for me. But I'm wondering what you think.
I get it, dude. Like, I didn't really think about that before, but you're right. It could be... I mean, we're not even asking for, like, fucking Brainiac level, like, threats. I mean, we could even get somebody like... I don't even know, like, what kind of villain that I could think of, but, like, yeah, right. You know, like a radicalist group or, like, a terrorist group.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe the guy is on Titan formula, and maybe he's, like, a reject Bane or something like that, and maybe they use their abilities to take him down. But, you know, ancient entity like Enchantress, it is a little weird and off-putting.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
Especially with how...
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, especially with how, like, they end the conflict. I mean, we're going to jump the gun, and we're going to come back to it later. But literally, a bunch of explosives are thrown in the air, and Deadshot shoots the gun, and that's how they win. Like,
yeah, you know.
Like, it's just so anticlimactic for such a what's the word? A very dangerous threat, I guess, or world-ending threat, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem that I have, because it's not so much the characters themselves that I only have problems with. It's just that level of threat. I think that, for example, there's this animated movie, Batman Assault on Arkham. It's basically a Suicide Squad movie, and they're taking care of a very dangerous threat, but it's not world-ending. It just happens to be in the asylum, and they're taking care of that situation. I think if they did something smaller scale, that we could actually be like, oh, that makes sense why you would send these clowns and not real superheroes. But on the way, focus on the characters, have them do shit that makes them grow throughout it, throw twists in there that throws them off. I think it could have been a stronger start for something like this, instead of just going like, world-ending plot, throw the Suicide Squad in,
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. The other thing I just wanted to say was like, minus the threat, tying back to the other members of the group, I thought it was funny and kind of lazy that they had two more people come in, that Katana chick, and then also Slipknot, but there was no backstory for them. They just told you, hey, here's these two guys, and they came from here, and this is what they do.
This is Katana. She's got my back. Sorry.
Right, exactly. and then, Slipknot gets his head blown off. I thought that shit was funny. His fucking body just swings off the off of whatever it is he's hanging on, and it breaks the fucking window.
Yeah, and I like that. Funny. I'm not gonna lie. People complain about that, but I actually think it's funny because he like pulls the rug out from under you.
I think that Slipknot is like a well-renowned like DC character. I don't know a whole lot about him, but I think that's probably why a lot of people bitched about it, because I guess he's like a pretty famous person, and they kind of just like snuffed you with him doing that. So I can see why. Yeah, and I can see that's why people got mad. But I will say, I mean, we're kind of already like in the halfway part of the movie. There's this big shootout that happens, and then they find out that, oh, we're here to rescue Amanda Waller, and then Amanda Waller's chopper gets shot down. And I mean, what else pretty much else happens after that?
Well, they got to go down and help her out, and before they get to her, I did want to ask you really quick. It's a small part in the movie, but I remember seeing this movie in theaters. There was a lot of people clapping when you see Will Smith jumping on a car, and he's like shooting out so many of these goo things before you find out what they are, and they turn out to be people who were fucked up by the Enchantress. And then he's like on this car roof and just taking a bunch out, and he's like, you just see him like mowing them down, all these cool camera angles. And then he stops and everybody was like clapping. Something that I like about that is that they didn't throw in like unnecessary pop music in there. It was just like a nice movie score. And that's kind of something I like. Did you notice that or no?
You know what? I did like that part, but I didn't notice that it was a movie score and it wasn't shitty ass music that they decided to add in. Like,
I think that's why.
I think that's probably why I subconsciously like enjoyed that part, because it wasn't like forced music, if that makes sense.
And then you get to the next scene, and Harley Quinn's in an elevator, and there's pop music while she's taking him out. But going back to what you were saying, so Amanda Waller's trapped there. They got to go get her out. They're in this building, and they got to find out how or what these things are. And I'm wondering, the part where El Diablo like finally gets mad and starts burning shit up? Was that before or after? Because I feel like they got out of that building, or was that before they got Amanda Waller?
So that was before, because remember, she said that she was going to send a chopper for him, and then it went down, and then they realized, oh, we have to go down there and help her. And then they looked at her plane, and then Deadshot was the one that found his files or her files on Rick Flag, and that's how he found out that he was sleeping with June.
Oh, okay.
I think was her name.
Right.
So yeah, that's what happens, and then they all decide to have a drink because. And I did kind of like this because it did show, and this is one of the pros that I had with the movie, is that at first, they're very reluctant to work with him. They're like, fuck this guy. Like, I want to kill him. Like, they really were not fucking with this dude. But like, as time went on, they realized that he was being used by Amanda Waller too. Yeah. And they ended up later on empathizing with him, and they ended up having respect for him, which is something that I did like. I will say too that Amanda Waller actually acted like Amanda Waller. the fact that she killed those FBI guys, that, you know, she's like, they weren't supposed to be here, and how cold and vindictive she is to get people to do whatever it is that she wants them to do. That was one of the pros that I had with the movie as well. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't really read a whole lot of Suicide Squad comics because I don't really give a shit about them. But, like, from the ones that I have read, she does act like that.
Yeah, it's almost to the point where, hell, if she was doing more fucked up shit to them directly, maybe she could have been a good villain for this movie. But what was I going to say? You mentioned the bar scene when they all go in there, because like you said, Will Smith. And I'm going to say Will Smith. Small tangent here. I don't mind Will Smith as this character. I just wish he wore his fucking mask more, man. I couldn't identify him as Deadshot because all I saw was Will Smith, and I'm like, why did he?
Yeah,
why did he
no, I agree.
Mask, you know.
He wore the fucking mask like twice in the movie. Like once when they introduced him, and then once like when he was in the building shooting things.
That's
and that
it,
was the
right?
only time he wore the fucking mask, and that was it. But like, yeah, no, I agree. Like if he had worn his mask a lot more, I think it would have been way cooler. But it just felt like it was a whole, hey, I have Will Smith in this movie. People should come and watch it. So here's his face.
People like Will Smith, so we got to make sure people, you know, keep seeing Will Smith. And again, I love Will Smith. He's awesome, but I just feel like I didn't connect with him as anything else besides Will Smith. But besides that, my point was we're going into the bar because he found out this shit, and you know they're all being played basically. And he's like, you know what? You can just kill all of us. We're kind of done playing along with this shit. And they're going inside. Nice moment. I like when everyone is talking together. Diablo explains what he did to his family. Really fucked up. Even today, I thought that was like, damn, you know, shit blows. And you find out that same thing's happening to Rick Flag. And the reason why I'm chuckling is because I always thought the part where he pulls out his letters and he's like, your daughter writes you every day. I'm like, well, why the hell is he carrying around his daughter's letters with him? Like, what the hell? Why did he have that?
That's actually a good point.
You know, that part always made me laugh. I'm like, you're just carrying that shit around with you, man?
Like, why? It's like, your daughter writes you every day. But I don't know if he thought that he could use that to, like, get to him later, to make him be like, hey, man, I need you. But, like, that was, like, pretty stupid. Like, what the fuck was the point of him just carrying
Yeah, but
shit?
it's like, to his knowledge, yeah, they were always going to be, like, just business relationship. Like, I wonder why he brought that. But anyways, that's just a stupid nitpick. Well, not stupid, I think it's dumb. But now we go to Killer Croc.
It is dumb.
We go to Killer Croc. And what I was wanting to say is the whole casting and how he looks, I don't have a problem with too much. I think I would have liked a more menacing, over-the-top giant Killer Croc. But that put aside, I just feel like they really wasted potential with this character because he's a real sympathetic character in the Batman lore. You know, he has this condition that he can't help himself from being, and there's nothing he can do about it, and it makes his life turn into that. And he doesn't really do a whole lot in this movie besides be in the background and say one-liners and grunt all the time. And I wonder why they did that and they didn't do anything else with him. I know he throws the bomb at the end and he goes in the sewer or whatever, but I just feel like he could have been so much cooler in this movie.
I think there's only so much that they could have done, especially with how he looked on a realistic scale.
Yeah.
As far as like budget goes too, because I love how Killer Croc looks in the Arkham games. Like,
same, he's awesome in that.
If you play Arkham Knight and you get the DLC, he's like a way more mutated version. Like he's way bigger, but like when you beat him in Arkham Asylum, and I just did that like before we started recording, like the dude's menacing. Like he looks awesome, but like I just don't understand how Batman would have a hard time beating this dude if he's like the same size as him. Like it's just like weird to me.
Yeah, he's pretty much just like a beefed up dude with scales all over him. And again, that in itself is fine. I guess I understand the only other way they would have done an Arkham version or esque version is with CG. And I just think that I think it would have been cool if they did more with Killer Croc because he was almost like Captain Boomerang level in the fact where he doesn't really do a whole lot besides talk. And I think Captain Boomerang is more involved with the plot than Killer Croc, really. But you know, the Suicide Squad actually got.
No, I agree.
Suicide Squad actually got an award for makeup for this movie because of Killer Croc. Did you know that? Got an Oscar.
I didn't know that, but it still doesn't deter from the fact that it sucks. Anyway,
sucks. If it's not good, it sucks.
It sucks.
Now we're basically.
It's not the worst.
Yeah. Now we're basically on the third act. Now we passed the bar scene. They find out it's like, oh, you're gonna find her. You're going to save her, or whatever Will Smith said to him. I don't remember. But they go into the place.
Oh no, he says you need to go.
I'm gonna get you in there or something.
Smack her on her ass.
Smack her on her ass.
Yeah, he says smack her on her ass or something. Yeah, I remember because it was stupid.
And then we see Cara Delevingne.
Some really like cheesy.
Yeah, so some silly. And then we see Cara Delevingne doing her little hula dancing and talking weird and being like, "Oh, I'll give you guys whatever you want," because she sees them all hiding, and and then you see what they have as their deep desires or whatever, and you see Harley Quinn married to Jared Leto and having a kid, Deadshot spending time with his daughter. What was it? Diablo having his wife and his kid back,
having his family, and then he's like, "It's not real.
It's not real. I say,
it's not real,
boy." Yeah, he does a lot of that shit. And now I'm going to let you talk a little bit about this ending fight scene. I don't want to be too unnecessarily harsh because I don't think it's the most terrible thing I've seen, but I was disappointed with it, and I did feel like it was extremely underwhelming. But as an ending fight with all these together, how was your experience revisiting this?
I think the only part that I really liked about it was the fact that it was like slowed down and like she was fucking with Deadshot's head and he has like that self-conflicting battle on whether or not he wants to pull the trigger because, his daughter's right there. And I thought that was kind of like cool. And I thought like, the score was great in that last part right before he shoots the grenades and blows them up. But I mean, that was really it. Like, that's really the only positives I have behind it is the score and the cinematography behind it.
Thank Christ they weren't
like I said,
pop, right?
Wait, what was that?
I was going to say, like, thank Christ they weren't blasting pop music during that.
Oh, yeah, I know. I mean, it would have been appropriate. Like, it just would not have worked. But as a final, like, battle or a climax for this movie, it was very anticlimactic. The fact that he just shot a bunch of grenades off, and that was it. Like,
that's all it took, man.
I feel like anybody could have done that.
This is Enchantress, like a living demon on Earth, basically. And it's just like...
a witch. She's a witch.
A witch. Sorry, my bad. No, I'm just talking, like, power-wise. But then they, like, throw a bomb. He's got to shoot it, and I completely understand where you're coming from. I think it's just perspectives. The only thing I disagree with you on, for me personally, was when I was watching the slow-mo, and it was he was staring at it about to shoot, and he was like, ah! I thought it came off as silly. It didn't work for me, and the only reason was I didn't think that the whole message where they were trying to convey made sense, where he's like, "Don't shoot, daddy, don't shoot." But in this one here, he's like, the only way to stop him is he has to shoot. So he's like debating with himself if he should shoot or not. It's like, dude, are you not going to shoot and kill everybody? Like, I don't understand what's the dilemma here. But that's just me. I'm probably just being harsh. I like the fact that Diablo doesn't do a whole lot, and then he kind of comes in and saves everybody. He turns himself into a giant Indian tiki fireman or whatever the fuck and fights the brother. He basically like turns into Godzilla subatomic, but his version, and then he just kind of kills the dude. And I like how he cusses in him in Spanish, and he's like, "You fuck yourself," and then they die, and that's kind of cool. I think it would have meant a little bit more if once Enchantress is defeated, his girlfriend actually didn't make it through it. I know it's supposed to be like a happy ending, but something that I would have changed personally is that she didn't actually make it through it, and it's like a very sad experience for Rick Flag. But maybe that might just be me. I don't know. That's something really the only ending that I would change for what we have.
I would agree. It was cool for Deadshot to see his daughter at the end again. Before I touch base on the end, because the ending shot is literally the Joker breaking Harley Quinn out of jail. I did think where she has that dialogue or that exchange with Joker, and he's like, "Would you die for me? Would you live for me? I'm gonna dump you in the chemical pool," and he jumps in after her. I thought that was so cringe. I'm like, why is this a thing? Why is this a thing in this movie, man? Like, he would never do no shit like this. Like, what are you
it's a weird
about?
Joker, man. It's a different version, and
it's basically a simp. It's a simp Joker. That's what it is.
Joker.
He's a simp Joker, bro. He, like, the fact that he's like, "Would you die for me? Would you live for me? Well, live for me then." And then he jumps in after her.
He throws her down. He throws her down first. He's walking away, trying to imply that he's actually going to, like, let her fucking die there. And he's like, "No, I'm not going to do it." He takes off his shit and jumps in. It's like, why are you doing this? Like, what's your plan?
Like, who gives a shit? Why would he care? Like,
he goes in there,
like, and then he. Oh, hold on.
Sorry.
well, hold on, and then he bails on her when she gets captured by Batman.
Yeah.
So like, what changed?
Like, do you care or do you not care?
Like, right? Like the fuck? Like this toxic masculinity simp Joker is what it is.
It's just but anyways,
and then, well, basically, the movie ends with Joker breaking Harley Quinn out, and then you have a post-credit scene where, again, Batman has to be spoon-fed everything, where he goes to Amanda Waller.
Yeah, he's taking notes.
He's like, thanks for giving me all this information about the Justice League or these metahumans. I have Barry Allen right here, and then I have Wonder Woman's information. Now I have Arthur Curry's, and then she's like, oh, well, why do you need this information, Bruce? He's like, oh, well, I need to form a team. There's something evil coming. But Amanda, you better shut this down or else I'm going to shut it down first. Like, dude, what does she need to be afraid of you for? You're over here coming to her for information.
What the fuck are you going to do?
What are you going to do? You don't even know how to fucking solve any goddamn mysteries.
Yeah,
I
love how it's basically Ben Affleck. He like looks at the camera and is talking to the audience. He's like, hey guys, so Suicide Squad's done now, but just get ready for Justice League. In case you didn't get it, we're getting the Justice League together. And he just like gives everyone a middle finger and walks off, basically. And
he's a moronic Batman, and I don't even know why he's written like this. And I guess it continues the continuity from Snyder's Batman from BVS, like where he just assumes everything and needs things spoon fed to him. But but wrapping it up, I'm gonna give this verdict as a 6. I think a 6.5. It's too generous, so I'm going to give it a 6, but only a 6 because it was entertaining in some parts, and I think the cringe moments are funny because of how cringe they are.
Hey, that's 100% fair. I think that's warranted. I have to be honest with myself, man. As much as I want to be fair, generous, not too generous, just be what I feel. I got to give this one a 5, man. I feel like it had a lot of potential to be much better. and not that I'm shitting on it. Like I said earlier, and for new listeners, 5 to me is basically nothing. It's like meaningless. I don't think it's a terrible movie. I don't think it's good. And I think what brings it down for me is the cringe factor. A lot of it just goes too far, and it's kind of hard to watch. And I don't mean to be a dick, but some parts I feel secondhand embarrassment when I'm watching, like the Jared Leto scenes.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone tries really hard, and I acknowledge that it just didn't come together right. And the fact that this editing kind of kills this movie a lot for me too. I could even give it a 6 if it wasn't so badly put together, especially in the beginning. And interesting fact also, by the way, David Ayer had his own version of a cut for this movie, and DC actually they went behind his back and they hired a movie trailer company to actually cut this whole movie. So it was a trailer company that cut this one, and it feels like a trailer sometimes, so it just makes perfect sense. But I'm going to give this one 5 out of 10. Hopefully James Gunn's version is better, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So that wraps it up on the Suicide Squad discussion. More like cringe squad. Now we're going to be going into Wonder Woman. And before we kind of dive into it, I will say, like, I don't feel like we need to spend a whole lot of time on this because I have my issues with this movie, but watching this movie to talk about it on this episode, it didn't feel like a chore. Like, I actually thoroughly enjoyed it.
Huh.
If that makes sense.
And what were you expecting?
I don't know. I think the first time, because I've only seen this movie twice, the first time I watched it, I thought it was just okay. I thought it was kind of boring in some parts, but rewatching it, I do think it is a solid watch or a solid movie out of the DC movies. And I'll go into why I think that later. But I mean, basically, because I don't want you to I don't want to spill all the tea quite yet. But what were your thoughts after this movie? Like, how did you feel from the first watch?
So the thing about Wonder Woman is, I did watch this one in theaters as well. Just like Suicide Squad, I want to say it was maybe opening weekend. And ever since then, I don't think I've really seen it at all. Like, I'll run around clips, I'll run through some clips and see people talk about it on like YouTube reviews or whatnot. But besides that, it kind of was, I saw it. It was almost like in one ear, out the other when it comes to how movies go. And I didn't really think about it too much afterwards. So revisiting this, I was actually pleasantly surprised. And it's not like it was amazing or blew my mind or anything like a lot of people were saying, especially if you look up the reviews. but it was better than I was expecting, especially maybe coming right off Suicide Squad. Watching this, I actually had a lot of things that I enjoyed about it that I was happy to see again, because it was like a huge tonal shift from the past couple DC movies, and I think this is one of the first ones where they started to maybe go on the right track. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely understand what you mean. And I was the same way too. Like I watched it one time, and like that was it. I never revisited it until our purpose for what it is we're doing now. And I do think that there are some parts in the movie that don't hold up very well. I think there's a lot of slow motion, and I think a lot of that kind of style of shooting is very like overdone. And to me, it just kind of made some cringeworthy stuff happen in the movie, but it wasn't enough for me to sit there and say, well, because this keeps happening, this movie has gone down a peg and it sucks. Like, I just thought it was overdone.
A little much. I know their style of action for any DC movie is very different than Marvel, I would say, and some people find that as a huge plus. I do like that there's variety. However, when it comes to the slow motion, in this movie in particular, not always, it's not like I hate slow motion and everything, but in this movie, it does do it a little bit to the point where I feel like now it's just showing off poses. Like Wonder Woman keeps posing during all these fights, like, look how awesome she is. And after a bit, I'm like, I get it. She's awesome. She's cool. Can we enjoy this action for a bit?
No, it's definitely feeling like a hammer on the head. I mean, I love the part where she's like in the town, just, fucking Nazis up. And, well, I wouldn't even call them Nazis because it's World War One. It's my fault. But just basically fucking dudes up, shoulder ramming the fucking truck and jumping through the tower. And I thought that part was great. I do, again, some of the slow motion shots were a little overdone. But I can look past it. I will say that, I do think that this movie does a good job of giving that woman empowerment that we've talked about before, but not hammering you over the head with it. Specifically with the line that she says, like right before she goes into no man's land or over the top, since it's trench warfare. And, Steve Trevor's like, no, you can't do it. You can't do it because no man has ever done it before. It's been over a year and nobody has moved. And she's like, what did she say? She says, no man has done it, but I will. And that was
she said that, he said that that's not what we came here to do. And then he turns over to her and she's like, well, that's what I'm going to do. And then she starts going up there.
So yeah, that would have been a perfect opportunity to make some kind of cringeworthy feminist line. And I like the fact that it was just like a simple, well, I'm going to do it, so you stay here and deuces. I like that because I feel like a lot of the times, I feel like a lot of the times when these kind of movies are a thing, I feel like they try a little too hard to get the feminist point across, but I think that part
Captain Marvel
was great.
Sorry, what?
I need to go back and watch that movie. Captain Mediocre.
You know what? To go along with your point, that's what I'm saying. It would have been a perfect moment right then and there, and I feel like it would have been so easy for people to jump on him and right in there. No, but a woman can do it, and then she goes over and does it. You know what I mean? And the whole audience would clap and sniff each other's farts. But besides that, I know we touched on the action, and we're kind of jumping in the middle of the movie. How about when it comes to the setup and letting you know about how her origin works in this movie? Did that work for you, or what'd you think about that?
I mean, it didn't really bother me. I mean, I don't really know a whole lot about Wonder Woman's origins. I just know that she's Amazonian, Amazonian, whatever. And I know she is almost on the same strength level or strength plane as Superman, but not exactly there. And that's really it. I mean, I know that she, I guess stems from like, Greek gods and stuff. I mean, hence her association with Ares later on in the movie, which I know you have a lot to talk about with that. But
yeah, a few things.
I don't think that the origin was too bad, in my opinion. I mean, I honestly thought that the whole story was pretty cohesive throughout. I thought it flowed pretty well. I didn't really feel like there was ever like a grinding halt or any kind of jarring edits to where we're jumping here, we're jumping there. I thought it flowed pretty cohesively, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then just to kind of go through the story a bit here, I know and from her homeland, what is it, Themyscira?
Themyscira.
It's Themyscira.
You always fuck it up, man.
Well, the point is, everything's going great there. She doesn't really know what's there about her that other people know. There's a big secret about Diana. I don't know, I mentioned to you a little bit earlier that I think it's funny how everybody loves yelling Diana in this movie. And
Oh yeah.
so we have Steve Trevor coming and running away from essentially Nazis. And ever since that she finds out there's a big war going outside, when he's able to tell her about this situation and what he's a part of. The thing I like about Wonder Woman in this movie, and it's really a simple thing, it kind of reminds me of the whole Superman aspect as well, is she just hears about this terrible situation outside of her world that she didn't really know about. And besides any other motivation that forces her to be dragged in there, she just kind of wants to go out there and help because she can. And I think it's a really pure superhero motive to have. And that's something that I find as a big plus. Because lately, there's always a great time when you see a good motivation for characters, but she doesn't really need a whole lot. She just hears that some shit's going down, and I'm going to go and help. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I mean, I will add to that because there was a part of her that did want to help because clearly she gets upset when the gas goes off, but she was also convinced that it was Ares that was behind all of it, so she wanted to go and stop him, so that way the war would cease to exist.
Right. It almost makes you seem like, and even the characters around her, the human characters, are always wondering why she's this naive and thinking that maybe she is right to an extent, but maybe she believes in it a little too much and things aren't really that black and white. Like, oh, it's just Ares. That's the reason why all this stuff is going on. That's why. And she's really committed to her belief in finding Ares. And she's so sure that when she kills this dude, everything's going to be fixed and war will be over. And that's something that I do and do not like about this movie, which we'll definitely touch on later. But the whole part where they gas that village, I know that she ends up being really upset because Steve Trevor stopped her from killing Ludendorff, who she was convinced was Ares at the time. And that's why she ends up getting upset and just like, fuck off, I'm just going to go and kill him myself. And we were talking about this Ludendorff fight before. I think it's interesting because I like the whole fact that she just goes there and wants to kill him. I don't know, it's just kind of cool to hear that instead of I'm just going to subdue him and bring him to justice. But sometimes I think that that fight is a little cheesy when he's breaking off that farting a pill or whatever and sniffing it and he becomes like all stuff. Like, what the hell is that?
Well, I don't. Well, that's the thing is like I think what she did to that dude was just total overkill. Like she was smacking him around, she tossed him up on the roof, slammed him down, and drove her fucking sword through the guy. Like, I mean, yeah, he was a fucking German commander, but like, goddamn, like she murked him like a fucking god. Like, damn. Like, did you really need to do all that?
She slayed him like a monster.
She fucking slayed him like a god. Like, holy shit. Like, calm the fuck down. But then I think then enter Ares, because obviously the war is not done, and she's like confused, and then Steve Trevor's like, well, maybe there is an Ares. Maybe humans just suck, Diana. Maybe that's just the reason why that this is all just going on. And I remember you saying that you would have preferred it to be a reason like that instead of what it is that we got, right?
Yes, that's just my perspective. And I know some people are happy with the way that it turns out and it pulls the rug out from under you. And that's perfectly fine if you like that. No biggie. It's just the way that the movie was playing out for me. I really enjoyed how subdued and small scale everything was. And this whole message of her coming to this realization that maybe things aren't so simple as she thinks they are. And maybe mankind has a lot more going on that's going on with flaws as opposed to everything's because of Ares. And I really like that because when Steve Trevor was talking to her and letting her know, he's like, you know what, maybe humans are just flawed. Like, maybe that's what it is. And she's coming to this realization. Like, it's a whole new perspective that she gets. And I was really enjoying that. And then come to find out, no, that's not really the case. And that gets thrown out the window because you find out that the most unintimidating British white guy with a twirling mustache is actually Ares the whole time, and he's been going around whispering things and ideas in people's ears, and he's the reason why there's war this whole time, and that's just kind of where it almost loses me to a point. It doesn't ruin the whole movie, but I did not like that, and I know when you watched it, you told me that didn't really bother you too much, right?
No, it didn't. I mean, the message was basically, hey, I wasn't making people do this. People wanted to go to war themselves. I was just there throwing ideas out, but it was up to them to decide whether or not they wanted to take advantage of it. And I think that's at least that's how I interpreted it. I thought that was kind of like, I mean, it was kind of a predictable take, but it made sense for what the movie was and what it was going for. I will say that I don't really understand the mustache. Like, I understand why he had it, like in disguise, because he's an Englishman. But like when you think about Greek gods, you don't really think about them having facial hair. Besides like Zeus, and I don't even know if Poseidon has facial hair or beard, but it's always like a beard. You don't ever really hear about Greek gods having fucking mustaches. So that was kind of just like weird.
Yeah, like British style mustaches and facial hair. It was just a little odd to me. And you know what? You're actually right. I feel like that was the point they were trying to make with the movie. Like, oh, humans were always going to do this. I just kind of helped push them there. And that's kind of the problem that I have, because I feel like it also, even if that's really what it was going for, it almost contradicts it, because just jumping towards the end here, there's a big crazy CGI fight where she's fighting Ares, taking him on.
Yeah, definitely not the best fight.
Not the best one. A lot of CGI overload, kind of funny looking.
I think
models. I don't know.
I think what makes the fight so awkward is because of like all the explosions and use of like warfare. Like instead of them doing that, they should have just duked it out. In my opinion, like I didn't. You know what? I didn't think they needed all that.
I'm glad you said that. I never really was able to pinpoint it. Like I watched it and I'm like, something to me is just feels like it's missing something. And I think that's what it is, because when you're watching it, there's not really a whole lot of hand-to-hand combat. It's just a lot of throwing shit at each other and magic. And like, it's basically like a Star Wars force fight or something at one point. And it's like, it's how long are we going to do this?
Basically what it is. Like, he's tossing rocks at her, throwing bombs at her. She's tossing bombs at him. Like, there's lots of just like weird CGI like weapon tossing, and that's kind of what makes that final fight underwhelming to me, because it wasn't like an actual fight. Like you said, it was like watching a fucking force fight between two Jedis, or a Sith and a Jedi, without them having like any kind of lightsaber combat. Like
right. No, that's what it felt like.
I was going to say, right after the part that Steve Trevor, dies, or apparently dies, I will say one of the slow motion CGI things that takes me out of the movie is when she screams and then she dashes across the whole, like, I guess, playing field, and she's like hitting dudes, but like, it seems like she's in a virtual reality, in my opinion. Like, it doesn't really look like she's actually like hitting people. And to me, that scene looks kind of bad. I think it is like really in my opinion. I think the scene could have did without. I think instead of her doing that, she should have just lunged at Ares and maybe just started like, wailing on him. But they had her do that instead. And I'm just like, okay, well, I guess we can do that.
I guess we can do that. And I understand where you're coming from, because to me, I feel like that's actually a really cool idea of her losing it and just kind of like messing people up because she just can't control her anger at that point. I think it's just the way it was executed. I think it would have been cool if we got some real interesting, fast-paced shot where it's maybe like a long take and you can see like real good choreography that just makes it look like she's running through and fucking people up. That could have been a little effective. I just think it's the way it looks and comes across. It's like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it like takes me out of it. Like I almost laughed. Like when it like happened, I like chuckled. I was like,
something back. I did want to come back to Ares really quick, because I know that they're insisting this is him. Again, someone I just don't buy being the God of War at all. But they do try to make it look like it's him in two ways. Number one, they have him in that flashback scene where you see him get messed up by Zeus, and then it's like him out of his armor, and it's like the British guy's head CG'd on this buff-ass body, and I'm like, no. that made me laugh.
Mustache.
It's a preference thing, say what it was. That's what they wanted to go with. I'm glad they stuck to their guns and really thought that would work. It didn't for me. And when they try to make him have his armor again, he just puts a bunch of metal on him and then burns Spartan.
Not only like does he put a bunch of metal, but it's a bunch of metal from like the weapons out there, which again just is like screams tacky in my opinion and lazy. Like I feel like he could have had like his own OG badass armor that you see him in the comics have, But no, we just wanted to give him, standard metal platings or metal casings to emulate his armor, and I just thought that was like really whack.
I feel like it was a way that they wanted to, for those people who were still on the fence, being like, is this really Ares? That's how they wanted to show you, yes, this is him, right? Like, you see him now. And then when you look through that mask, when he burns a Spartan-style opening, you still see the guy's face under it, and I'm like, I just can't help but laugh. I'm like, I still don't buy it, I'm sorry. And what happens in the end of the battle, he, like, throws lightning at her, and she's able to harness it in her gauntlets and shoots it back, something like that.
She basically, like, from what I remember, she deflects it, and it, like, hits the nigga in the heart, or, like, in the chest, so kind of like how it ends, and I guess he, like, vaporizes.
Yeah, she takes him out Palpatine style.
So he can bust. Yeah. God, you can be started on that, but anyway. Poof. And then
just like a big-ass poof. Oh, sorry, I keep feeling like the point that I'm trying to get to with this last part is he does end up exploding. That's a big thing. And you see that as soon as he's gone, the humans who are in the war just kind of freeze, or they're around and they stop doing what they're doing because they don't understand what's the problem, right? And that's what I'm... that's so dumb to me because I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
and it's the point of the movie.
Yeah, because the point of the movie was them saying, oh, hey, I did this just because, they were doing it anyway, but I wanted to give him a little extra boost. And then when he dies, it's like they lose control of that influence, but it's just like, I thought they were doing this on their own. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, if you just gave him a push, but they were still going to do it on their own, I feel like they would still be doing what they're doing. I don't know that they would just completely stop, because then that does mean that it was Ares the whole time, and it really is that simple black and white that Diana thought in the beginning. And that's the part that kind of throws me out of it. It's not enough to ruin the movie. Besides that, I know she's talking about how the reason why she's going to save Earth is because she believes in love. That's a little bit out of nowhere, too. But I guess I do buy that she loves Steve Trevor, because I'm not going to lie, when he ends up about to kill himself and shoot the plane pretty much and make himself blow up, I think that hit's kind of good. I think it's a pretty intense moment up until we find out that he's back in Wonder Woman 2.
Up until she does the random CGI running, and then it takes me out, and I don't feel bad anymore. But but yeah, I don't know what's going on in Wonder Woman 2. We'll just have to see what happens. I guess in September. I don't know when it's coming out again, because it's been fucking delayed because of this coronavirus.
We would have seen it already, along with Spiral.
I don't think Wonder Woman would have been out in the first week of June, so we wouldn't have seen it yet. But it's coming up.
No, you're wrong. We would have seen it. What the hell are you doing?
I'm sorry. I'm scratching my neck. We'll probably
okay. I was going to say, are you eating cereal in the background, too? I hear, spoons against plates or something.
No, I'm not doing that. I was scratching my neck.
Okay. So, yeah, that's the end of... I guess that pretty much summarizes the first Wonder Woman movie. We have our problems, but overall, it's still nothing compared to Suicide Squad, BVS.
Well, before we get into the second part of cringe in this episode, if I had to give it a rating, I would give it a 7 out of 10. I think I'd give it a 7. There's nothing in the movie for me to warrant it to be a 6. Like, there's just not enough things in it for me to say, yep, this is a 6, is right below being good. And I think it was a good movie. I don't think it was, anything great. I don't think it was anything out of this world. It had its flaws, but overall, the good outweighed the bad.
For sure. I would agree with you and give it a 7 as well. Just a few tweaks here and there, maybe tightening up some of the execution with the way the action's filmed, tightening up that story a little bit for me. Pick a side if you want to be simplistic about it. If you're going to have a twist, if you're going to follow through, just a few tweaks would have really made this one better for me. If those were out of the way, I could really see myself giving this an 8, maybe even 9 out of 10, depending on how it was. But for what it is, I think it's a good movie, and that's definitely nothing completely wrong with just a good movie.
Yep, not everything has to be mind-blowing in order for it to be good or deserve another rewatch, but that being said, we'll be diving into Cringe League next. So before we talk about it, I know that I was the one that did a rewatch. I know that you have, I guess, kind of seen it enough more or less to just having on as background noise, so you didn't really like, pay attention to the things that I was paying attention to. And to be honest, rewatching this movie felt like a chore for me.
Really?
After it did, I will say, after probably the first 15 to 20 minutes, I'm just kind of like, I'm waiting for this to end. I will say the beginning of the movie was cool. Well, hold on. Let me backtrack a second. Let's talk about Superman, because really the first shot of the movie is these kids getting Superman on tape with that atrocious mustache that he has edited off. And when they ask him questions about what he likes about Earth and stuff like that, he acts like really awkward. Like he's like, Earth. Yeah, that's that place I've been living on all my life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he just acts like really awkward and off-putting, and that like one scene, and then when he asks him what he likes best about it, he starts smiling. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Where was this energy of him acting like this before he asked him this question?
And it's just a little bit, I think it's the way that he's presented in that opening scene. He's acting like these kids coming up to him, asking him questions. He just threw him off. Like he wasn't expecting this. So he's like really awkward about it.
Yeah, and, exactly.
And the thing is, it's a different Superman. But before we even get into that, obviously the big thing is that a lot of people know this was going to be a Zack Snyder movie. Credited it's still a Zack Snyder movie. He was only able to complete a good amount of it before a tragedy struck. And what's his name? Who's the Avenger? Who's Joss Whedon? Why am I forgetting Joss Whedon? Joss Whedon had to come in and
jokey joke man Whedon
had to come in and take care of the rest of the movie. And we see this version of Superman, and right off the bat, he's already a little bit different. They're trying to make him more of a how do you say, a friendlier Superman, a different, lighthearted Superman. And that's why they're showing this scene, so they can show like, oh, he's the regular Boy Scout. He loves Earth and Lois Lane, and he wants to talk to these kids. I just think that they could have maybe went a little further and have him be not awkward and act like he's happy the kids are talking to him, and he can give them a good inspirational speech, but that doesn't really happen.
Yeah, he's just like an awkward mess. So yeah, I mean, like you said, within the first, 5, 8, 10 minutes of the movie, we already got a different Batman, because, fast forward, Batman is doing his own detective work for once. He's figuring out how to lure out parademons, and then when the parademon explodes on himself, he's like, oh, hey, look, Alfred, this is the same signal that we saw over here. And Alfred's like, yeah, that's it. You're right, Bruce. And it's Batman being Batman. He's doing detective work when, this whole universe, he's had everything spoon-fed to him.
It's like, Batman, where have you been, man? We missed you.
Exactly. Like, where the fuck was this during Batman versus Superman? Where was this during Suicide Squad? Like, it just doesn't, make any fucking sense as to why the world's greatest detective is finally starting to do detective work. I don't understand. I mean, he's essentially a moron in this universe, but I'm gonna go ahead and continue. So you get these, shots of everybody suffering because Superman's dead. And then, what is the next part of the movie?
I think it shows with Wonder Woman.
Bruce. Yeah. It shows Wonder Woman. She gives her corny "I'm a believer" speech, and shows what Wonder Woman's doing. I kind of think that whole scene was kind of pointless, in my opinion.
Why is that?
I think we knew enough about Wonder Woman to where we didn't really need to see what it is that she was doing. Like, what do we care? Like, isn't this about him getting the team together? Like, we already know that her and Bruce are buddies. Like, what does it matter? I just felt like it was a really pointless scene. I feel like we could have got something of more substance with another character, and we didn't.
Maybe get a little bit into the other characters that we haven't seen yet. For example, the Flash. We could see more of Barry set up, more of Cyborg set up. But it's almost like they got to make sure that they have this scene for Wonder Woman because that was the one before. It was a big hit. So they got to have this heroic scene with her there. It's whatever to me. It was very Wonder Woman-esque. I never had a problem with her character directly, so it was just fine for me. But after that, we move into Batman. He's talking to Alfred. Shit, right?
I'm sorry. I got to backtrack for a second. I know we're talking about Justice League now, and maybe you might need to edit this, but I forgot to talk about her physique. Fuck.
Yeah, I think last time we did it in the Wonder
We
Woman
did.
part.
We did.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna throw this comment out there. Maybe you can just edit it in there, or
All right.
we'll find a way to work it. But basically, I'm just gonna say this before we talk about these other characters. One complaint that I do have about Wonder Woman is her physique. Usually when you look at Wonder Woman, she's always usually a built figure, and she's got some kind of bigger legs, broad back, big shoulders. Boobs are there, but again, that's comic book artists, over exaggeration of body parts like they always do. I feel like they could have, with all the resources that Hollywood has, I really do feel like they could have gotten Gal Gadot to be a little bit more built for her role. I think that she is a little bit too skinny for how she looks. Obviously, I'm not asking her to get breast augmentation because, that's her genetics. And, obviously we're not going to want her to force herself to go through all that. But I feel like they could have put her on the best plan, the best diet to beef her legs up, beef her arms up, beef her, her back and her shoulders up, visible muscles that, you would see when you have her dressed up as Wonder Woman. I do think that sometimes watching her do things and, it's like, hey, she's just not as jacked or as built as she should be. It does kind of take me out of the movie just a little bit. And again, not enough for me to warrant me to hate it or, knock a score down for it. But I mean, you look at Chris Evans coming out of the chamber and, the first Avenger. Went in as a twig. I get it was all CGI, but he came out looking swole. Like that kind of stuff right there is why I look forward to superhero movie, because it's like, okay, this is how they look in the comics. This is how they're looking in real life, and they're dedicated to it. You know what I mean?
Damn, Jordan, look at you. Everyone's going to talk about how you're skinny shaming. No, I'm just kidding. I I get what you're saying, and I know there was this big push when she was about to be Wonder Woman before, and they showed her working out, doing all this stuff. I don't know. I feel like I understand completely what you're saying, and I don't know if this is even worse, but I just think that maybe different casting with someone who fits the part would have been essential from the start. Just for me, because it's the point where even if it doesn't matter that it's just for Wonder Woman. If it was another superhero, for example, like Captain America, like you said, if they got someone who was super skinny and didn't even look muscular in the least, like they could take a lot of shit or kick a lot of ass, it's hard for me to really believe that that's happening too. Not that happens so much with Wonder Woman, because I know she's on another level and she has different abilities, but it definitely couldn't have hurt. I know they said that she did work out and she was buff, but I guess it's just kind of hard to see. I don't know.
And then, I mean, exactly. I mean, there could have been metabolism issues. We just don't know. But like I said, I just really feel like with all the money and resources that Hollywood has available, they could have did a better job with it. I mean, it's the same thing with Shazam. Like Zachary Levi, I thought he played a great Shazam. But the whole muscle suit was like, I feel like it was too obvious with the muscle suit. Like maybe dial it back on the muscle suit and maybe beef the guy up just a little bit. And it could have been passable, but that's just.
But Jordan, I feel like you're trying to imply that wasn't a suit, and that actually was Zachary Levi.
No, there's no way that it was
him. All right, no, I hear you. And then it's going to be funny that we're going to be talking about physique here, because next when we're looking at Batman, there are some noticeable reshoots here. Apparently, there was a good amount of time in between, and at first, it was kind of hard to see in the theaters, but I know now that actually no, that's not true. You and I saw this in theaters together, and I do remember there was some point
it was Vernon's. No, it was Vernon's birthday. I remember, and we saw it opening night. And I remember there were certain shades of the movie that you were looking at, and then come a later part on, you'd be like, well, wait a minute, his cheeks look fuller. And, there's this part in the movie where right after they introduce Wonder Woman, it shows Bruce Wayne shaving. But if you can tell and look closer, look closelier, I'm pulling the South Park. If you look closely, you can see that Ben Affleck's cheeks are just really full, and he does not look the way that he does in Batman v Superman. The dude clearly gained a little bit of weight, and I understand that he had, his alcohol issues probably happening to him around that time. So that also didn't help. I'm glad he's doing better, because I do like Ben Affleck. But that again also just takes you out of the movie because it's just like, well, damn, like we got a fat Batman. Like, um, the other, the other
Sorry,
thing,
I don't know.
the other thing that like is weird for me in the movie is like the way that it's like shot chronologically. Like they show him shaving, right? And then I think they either show Barry or they show there's like some kind of scene in between this happening, but then he goes to visit Aquaman, remember? But he's got a full beard. Like,
Right, yeah.
what? Like I didn't really like understand how that works. Like the dude didn't have a beard at the beginning of the movie, and then he's shaving a beard, and then when he goes to talk to Aquaman, he's got a beard. Like, huh?
Again, like, is this supposed to be before? Why would they show this after then? Like, how does that make any sense?
It doesn't, like, chronologically, it just doesn't make any fucking sense. I mean, again, it's not enough for me to sit there and say, this movie's just fucking stupid. I have other reasons as to why the movie's fucking stupid, but that's not one of them. I did want to say, because, I mean, I do want to try and talk about this movie chronologically as much as I can, because it's still fresh in my head, and I have a lot of issues with it. But after he talks to Aquaman, and, you realize that Ben Affleck's put on, like, a reshoot 15 for the movie. You go and enters Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. He goes to visit his dad. His dad is in prison, and basically, I think this is also playing on like Flashpoint, where Reverse Flash framed his dad and threw him in jail and shit like that. And
Killed his mom, right?
Yeah, framed him and for killing his mother, even though he didn't do it. And there's this really cringe part, man. And like the delivery was just so horrible, but it like Billy Crudup's telling them, "Hey son, go get a job, like, get a better job. Stop coming over here to visit me." And Ezra Miller's like, "You don't ever get to say that to me, ever." It's like it's like a
say that to me ever again.
it's like telling a teenage boy, like, "Hey, you can't do this when you get older." And like right before he goes in his room and slams the door, like that's how he says that line or delivers it. Like, dude, you're like a grown ass man. Why are you talking like this? Like, I just thought it was like a very odd delivery, and I every time I hear it, I almost want to laugh. Like,
yeah, and it's almost like, do you see what they were going for there? That he's like hyper emotional, I guess, at that moment, and I guess they're trying to convey he's really upset that his dad's there in the first place, so that's why he's acting like that. Does this version of Barry work for you? I'm talking about Ezra Miller wise being cast. I know there was that bad delivery, but how about everything else about him?
The more and more I watch him, no, I don't really like him as Flash. I mean, Barry Allen is a blonde dude. He's blonde. He's got short hair. And I mean, I guess I will say, the humor and jokes he cracks, yeah, that's something that Barry Allen does because Barry's a witty dude. But,
right.
That doesn't like make up for the fact that he doesn't look like him at all. Like, there's really no like similarities in how they look. Again, it's not enough for me to hate the movie, but it definitely takes you out of it, and it definitely lowers my score for it. I will say that.
Dang. Okay.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about too is that I think after that, or before that, whatever, Bruce is talking to Wonder Woman about what's going on, and she tells him, it's the mother boxes. There's 3 all around the world. And the funny thing, or this is honestly one of the most angering things in the movie, is that it shows a Green Lantern. I think it shows like 1 or 2 Green Lanterns in that scene. And of course the Green Lantern dies and the ring floats off to go find somebody else to be the successor. But the fact that we know that Green Lantern is in this universe and they're doing nothing with him, it just bugs me. Like, it was just such a throwaway like scene, if that makes sense.
I guess it just sucks that it was that small of a tease. It was just a little cameo, and I know how you feel about Green Lantern because of our last episode, and I think you just wish that they could be more prominent and epic as they are in the lore, right?
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, Green Lantern has a lot of cool background stuff, and the fact that it's in this universe and nothing's being done with it just really sucks because Cyborg wasn't even an original member of the Justice League. It was Green Lantern.
Yeah, before they put Cyborg, or before they put Green Lantern in there, they put Cyborg, and I know that they're trying to distance themselves from the Ryan Reynolds movie, but like How long ago was that? I feel like it's been a long time, so they can change it, right?
I mean, if this movie came out in 2017 and Green Lantern came out in 2011 or 2012, I think 2011. I can't remember. I mean, that's like it's like 6 years. So like, I mean, I don't really think that it's that bad of an idea to reintroduce like failed characters, especially if they do it right. Of course, this movie was, them trying to go down that road of revamping the universe, but it was just a little too late with what they had.
I mean, we can't go 2 years without getting another Batman or another Spider-Man. I think we would have been just fine with getting another Green Lantern as a supporting character in this, not even a main movie, but maybe in the future we'll get a Green Lantern movie with Tom Cruise and everything will be great.
Old ass Hal Jordan. But yeah, that was just one thing that annoyed me. So you fast forward, Steppenwolf, which again, by the way, is probably one of the worst DC cinematic villains ever. The dude looks horrible. He was barely a threat. You fast forward and he goes to bother the Amazons and gets the first mother box. And one thing that I thought was like really hilarious about this part of the movie is that there's this big dramatic slow motion scene of them basically just like knocking down all these walls and barriers, right? So that way they think that they're boxing him in and he can't get out, but she got the mother box and she's gonna be on her way with the mother box. No, the nigga just goes out the other side of the fucking tomb of where they kept it, and he doesn't even go. Like, he just cuts a fucking hole through it and he leaves like it's nothing. Like, I just love how dramatic and set up this whole scene was for him to just go and do that on the other side.
It's all like emphasized slow motion. You see them swinging the pillars.
It's like all slow mo. Like, oh my god, they're gonna get out. Oh my god, are they gonna keep it? Are they gonna save it? And then the nigga just goes out the side. Like,
that part does sound great. I feel like I know that scene. I never paid attention to entry and like what side, like geographically. I figured that I was so focused that they were trying to make that part look really cool, and not that it didn't.
Bro, she goes out the front of the door, man. That's how I know. And then when he does it, he comes out the side because there's nobody there. Like, it's not the same entrance, is what I'm saying. It's like, I'm saying that he made his own entrance and left. Like, he didn't even bother going out that way. He went out the other direction.
And speaking of Steppenwolf himself, I'm struggling with myself right now because I really don't want to just be like, he sucks, he's bad. I'm trying to think of cool things or things that distinguish him to be a threatening, different, unique, compelling villain. It's just like a copy paste for the most part. He doesn't have much to him besides the fact that he's Darkseid's lapdog or something.
He's pretty much his lackey.
He doesn't look good. I mean, I guess he has a cool deep voice, but what supervillain doesn't, or a villain threat, and it just doesn't have a whole lot going on. His point is to get those boxes for no other reason besides that's what he's told to do. So you don't really find a reason why he should be that threatening, or you should be like, oh my god, watch out for Steppenwolf. Oh no, as opposed to Thanos, who has so much.
We don't know anything about him. Like, the dude, is literally making his first appearance in this movie, and if you watch, the director's cut of BVS, you see, Lex Luthor jerking him off in the Kryptonian ship, and then he goes away, and that's it. So
sorry, hold on, I'm gonna edit this out. But can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I accidentally unplugged my mic. All right.
I was making sure we ain't got no fuck ups. But
all right.
But yeah, I mean, he really had no character set up, so you're not really supposed to feel threatened by this guy at all, except that that he's the bad guy in this movie, and that's it.
He's the bad guy in this movie, and then on top of that, it's something else that you just can't really get by, especially now when I'm able to actually put this on my 4K TV and just watch this. He just doesn't look good, dude. His CGI looks unfinished for a lot of these scenes, especially the action scenes. And it's something that I know it's easy for people to be like, oh, people just love to complain that CGI doesn't look pitch perfect all the time, but it really helps because when I'm watching, for example, Thanos in any of his scenes, I don't feel like that. He feels like a presence in those movies. And Steppenwolf just feels like he's thrown in there, like composed by a computer.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Like, even I forgot Thanos's I forgot his squad's name, but even like Corvus Glaive and Ebony Maw and Proxima
Yeah.
Midnight. Even those guys feel like they're a presence in the film, and they don't feel like, you know, a CGI hot mess. Like, and they're side characters. You don't know anything about these dudes, but like at least they still feel like, you know, an actual presence in the movie. You know what I mean?
It's almost like it feels like Justice League is to what Infinity War would have been if Thanos would have sent one of them to go mess with the Avengers and not him himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that would have just turned into a shit show. But fast forwarding, we got Aquaman. We have a nice cringe scene of him drinking beer, some rock music playing in the background, and
We can tell that later.
Oh, 100%. Like, nobody else would be doing that. Cringe to the max. And, you know, he saves the guy. There's, like, you know, alien blood on him, whatever. So then he starts swimming. And one thing that I thought was weird was that I always was under the impression that Atlantis was, like, in this deep, secluded area of the ocean. Like, how was Aquaman so close to finding a mother box? Like he found that he was pretty close to this battle. Like, I think he overheard some stuff happening, and like he swam over there and started helping.
Yeah,
but, like,
pretty much.
But like, how was he that close? Like, because from what I'm understanding, he had just got done saving Homeboy in the water, and then he just went back in the ocean, and then he heard it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just kind of like stupid. And then on top of that,
exactly, yeah. Especially when you see Aquaman's actual movie, Atlantis is shown to be real secluded and secret and deep, and it just doesn't seem like it would actually work that way.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, you know, you fast forward and the dude's got different eyes, different eye color. Again, not enough for me to hate the movie, but the continuity is extremely weird. And then he has this conversation with Mera, and I can't remember what it is that she says to him that almost makes me feel like it's contradicted as well.
Oh, you know what she says? She took a crap on Johnny Depp's bed. Sorry. And you know what?
Ass.
So yeah, go ahead with that conversation. My bad.
No, I was just going to say, she says something to him that I'm like, well, wait a minute. I thought, yeah, that's right. I think she says some kind of comment to him about him seeing Atlantis. But when you watch Aquaman, hung-ass Willem Dafoe, he comes and teaches him about, you know, Atlantean culture and stuff like that. But I think the first time he had ever been to Atlantis is when Mera takes him in the movie.
Yeah, so that just doesn't make... Oh, man, this part contradicts itself. And I remember I asked you about this before. Is that Aquaman the movie's fault that it didn't follow that? Or is it this movie's fault for saying or not realizing that was going to happen down the line? Because I can't tell. Did he first go there or did he not?
Right, exactly. And again, I'm not going to dwell on it because my head's going to explode, but it's just something to think about, like, as far as like how fucked up the continuity is with some of these movies.
Like a small part here. I don't want to cut you off, but before I forget, Selena pointed this out to me and my wife when we were watching Justice League the other day. Not the other day, I guess a couple weeks back. She thought it was funny how in the movie Aquaman, they make it a good point that a lot of the Atlanteans are mad at humans because they dump a lot of their waste and litter and they kill fish and ocean life, right? But then in the part where you see in Justice League when Jason Momoa, he's like drinking a glass bottle of beer. He just chucks it in the water before he goes in. I'm like, wow, what a hit. Littering. Sorry, small thing, but I just thought it was funny.
It's actually kind of funny because I think at that point in the movie, he can empathize more with being human and having the ability to swim around than, you know, being an actual Atlantean. Because remember, he kind of hates him because of what he did to his mom. But that is a funny detail, though.
They threw her in the trench. Sorry, but yeah, no, it's just a little funny part. But go on. So what's next after this in this masterpiece? So
basically, you fast forward, and you know, Diana has a conversation with Cyborg. I'm not even going to elaborate about that. Jim Gordon, a.k.a. Nolan Grayson, a.k.a. J. Jonah Jameson, is in the movie as Commissioner Gordon, which I remember seeing pictures of this dude, like, working out, getting jacked. And, like, nothing happened. Like, the dude was just, like, a supporting character for, like, 5 minutes, and then they said bye.
What is that, one scene?
Yeah, he has, like, one scene, or actually, like, two in the whole fucking movie. This cop runs up to him and he's like, oh, you think Batman's doing anything? Batman's doing it? He's like, no way Batman's done it. I've known Batman for 20 years. And then lo and behold, Ben Affleck shows up and he's got, you know, the Flash. We skipped a part.
What?
we got to go back to him meeting Ben Affleck, or we got to go back to him meeting Bruce Wayne in Barry's place. So,
Oh,
so,
okay.
so Barry shows up. You know, he deducts that he's Bruce Wayne because he chucks a batarang at him, and I will admit that was a cool scene. He slows down time and shows time in his perception because of how fast he actually moves. But then they have like this really cringe like conversation. He's like, "I need your help. I need people with special abilities." Boy, man, are you? Are you actually in?
Oh,
And then Ezra goes to
yeah.
say, well, I don't really have a whole lot of friends. What is it like? A lot of people want to go and get brunch, and I don't know what brunch is. You wait in line to get breakfast or lunch. And,
I kind of hate that you brought that up, man. I try to forget about that part.
I had to fucking bring it up. It's so fucking bad. Like, you can just tell that that's just Joss Whedon, like, trying to throw something in to make it funny. And to me, it failed. Like, it just did not work. I felt like it was too forced. It was just so stupid. Like, what? Like, come on.
They
Like,
want to make
what do we?
and they want to make him real funny. I just don't understand why that was the joke out of so many. You went with a brunch joke like that. No, not even normies think is funny. What the hell?
Dude, it's so cringe. Like, I can't even begin to fathom it. But anyway, I had to backpedal for that. So you got Jim Gordon talking to Batman on the roof. And, we're like, yeah, you got to go to the waterfront because, there's some shit popping off there. So they go to the waterfront. And then again, you get another cringe joke of how they all disappeared and the Flash is the last one to leave. They go to the waterfront. Victor's dad is being held hostage. And, that's kind of when they show up. And then you have another weird, odd interaction between Batman and the Flash. And he's like,
Save one.
No, save one. He's like, I don't fight people. I just push them. Like, yeah, okay. Like, again, just, more cringe dialogue from, fucking Flash in this movie,
Yeah,
go
man,
figure.
I just feel like there's so much cringe in this movie for you, and almost every joke just falls flat for you. Is there any joke that works?
It really, no, not at all. Like, so far, none of it really works at all. So, I mean, this scene is pretty cut and dry. I mean, like, the Flash saves people. They have a fight scene. Wonder Woman squares up with Steppenwolf. I will say the coolest part is hearing that old Danny Elfman music when he hops in, like, the robot or whatever the fuck it is that Batman has.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So that's, like, the only cool part. And then, Aquaman shows up with his shitty looking suit. I don't even know who the hell thought about designing him with that suit.
I love how Aquaman pulled what Thor used to do and just come out of butt fucking nowhere and just do his thing.
Fucking Thor. Oh man, shit's funny. Remember, I think the funniest fucking time that Thor showed up was in Age of Ultron. Like, remember they're all arguing, and then he just shows up out of nowhere. And he just like gives a surge to fucking Vision so he can come to life. And then once the surge is done, the lightning just like explodes and he goes flying back through the glass. I think that shit is so funny to me. Anyway, so yeah, he shows up out of butt fucking nowhere. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm going to help, blah, blah, blah. And then fast forward, they're back in like the Batcave, right? And then you get another cringe moment of Ezra going, ooh, it's a cave.
So he's zipping around, he's in a Batmobile.
Yeah, and then you got fucking Bruce Wayne telling him, Barry, come on over here, we all have to talk. Like he's his fucking dad or something. Like he's like that weird dad figure that's like talking to him, even though they all should in reality be the same age, but they're not.
Dude, I'm low-key gonna put a cringe counter in the corner of this video. Just how many times? Because you and I have said it so many times in this episode. We're probably like in the 40s right now.
Gotta be at least in the 40s. So they talk. Bruce calls out Diana for. He has this idea of using the mother box to bring Superman back. Diana's against it. He calls her out on hiding, because, Steve Trevor died and, you're all self-righteous about your picture and blah, blah, blah. And then Diana's like, oh, well, you wanted him dead. And he goes, oh,
Superman was a beacon of hope. If there was a 1% chance that I could bring him back. Like, what do you mean he was a beacon of hope? You tried to murder him last movie.
Where the hell did this come from? And I get it. He said Martha, so you turn around, but I just such a change. Before it was there's a 1% chance that he's bad, so we got to take him out. And now he's like he's a beacon of hope. You never thought that in the last movie.
Yeah, you thought that for like the last like 5 minutes when Doomsday was fucking everything up, right? No. Now you think that because he's dead, okay? And then of course while they're all talking shit to each other, and also to the fucking 1% chance. There's a 1% chance. Like,
call back.
Come on, like, like, come on, dude. Like, is 1% like your favorite statistic? Like, is that what you like to use to like compare everything? Like, well, there is a 1% chance that this could happen, so that's just too uncertain for my statistics. Like, it just doesn't make any fucking sense.
He has this obsession with 1%.
So randomly, Cyborg is like, yeah, I was crunching the numbers in whatever database he got his information from. I mean, it's not too far-fetched because he's Cyborg, but He's like, yeah, I was crunching the numbers, and, we probably can bring Superman back. So they're game to do it. They dig up his body. You get another cringe moment between Flash and Cyborg, and, it was a fist bump joke, and they had to make it at, like, an undertone racist, like a racist joke, kind of like, fist bump, he's black. Oh, yeah. Again, another cringe joke. And then you move forward to the next part, and it's fat ass Ben Affleck just hovering over, looking at them going into the Kryptonian ship. And I wouldn't have been surprised if Wonder Woman came up to him and Batman had his hand in a bag of McDonald's fries, just chowing down. I would have been surprised if he's just sitting perched up on top of the gargoyle. He reaches his right hand into a bag of McDonald's and just puts some fries in his mouth. So, and like, I know it sounds like we're shitting on this movie, and I promise you, we're really not. It's just, there's a lot of things wrong with this movie that we can just see, and I just can't unsee it, even after all these years.
Yeah, it's not like we're just saying that this movie's an abomination and it's terrible that it's made. It's just that this movie is so apparent that it was just messed with, and it was trying to be put together by different forces, and all these things are just apparent. That's all. I mean, it's just funny to look at, but we'll probably get the things that we enjoy at the end, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna try and move forward with a lot more quicker, because we still have some other shit to talk about. But they bring Superman back. Superman kicks the shit out of all of them. That was one of the best parts of the movie, in my opinion. I think it really just demonstrated Superman's power and the fact that he could hold his own against all the Justice League members. I mean, what did you think about that?
I do like it. I do like it. I think what's weird to me is, I get he's coming back. He's like a Frankenstein monster. He doesn't understand who he is or what's going on, and that's going to take a bit. It was just kind of funny how he was fucking everybody up, and who knows how far he would have gone up until he sees Lois Lane, and it just reminds me of the whole Scarlett Johansson trying to calm down Hulk. And like, the sun's getting real hot. Oh, calm down. Like, he just sees I guess I'm just tired of that trope, and I think it would have been cool if maybe he saw something else or had some kind of different thing happen to him that made him snap out of it. It's always Lois, and that's her whole point of these. Or
maybe he had a flashback about his dad, and maybe he's just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
I would even have preferred his mom over Lois Lane. I just can't stand how Lois has nothing to do in any of these movies, and all they can figure out for her to do is just to be Superman's lady.
In danger.
And in danger, especially in BVS, but you know what I'm saying.
Exactly. I mean, the thing about that is that her and Alfred were the only two people that had a fucking brain in that movie, so, I mean, go figure.
But it is cool when people are trying to mess around with him, and, for example, his music starts playing when he's, like, dodging punches, or he's trying to punch Flash, and, like, his old school music starts playing. I thought that was kind of cool. I like how he did it. Yeah. If you listen closely, when he's like punching the pillars and almost hits Flash, you hear dun 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 dun. It's like that kind of shit. And
I didn't even notice that.
yeah, it's cool. It's like it ignores the Man of Steel soundtrack and does the old one, just like with Batman. And I like how he headbutts the shit out of Wonder Woman. That was kind of funny.
Kal-El, no.
Kal-El, no. Yeah, so that, but it was fine.
And then he tosses Batman to the ground, and he's all fucked up. I will say, like, when she reattaches his shoulder, I guess Ben Affleck doesn't look too overweight. Like, he looks like he's in a decent like body weight in that frame or in that picture or that scene, I guess.
Reshoot, maybe.
Yeah, probably definitely before a reshoot. Again, which is unfortunate, but then of course, Aquaman's pissed about what happened because they got their asses kicked, and then they all decide, hey, we need to band together and we need to go stop Steppenwolf. Then you have another cringe dialogue moment between Bruce and Arthur. And I really thought that this scene was awkward. I mean, trust me, we're not going to get... There's more awkward cringe moments later on.
You're talking about the lasso part?
No, not. I'm talking about something else. I'll get to it in a bit. But he talks to Arthur. He's like, so, do you talk to fish? He's like, yeah. He's like, dude, so can you put feeler out? Like what? Like, huh? And then Aquaman goes to say, the ocean does the talking. He's like, the ocean does the talking, so when they say something, I'll know. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, I thought he couldn't even talk to fish unless he was around them in water. Like, how does he know that the ocean is going to talk?
The part that I love about that whole scene, and what gets me, is that when Bruce Wayne is talking to him like this, fucking Jason Momoa, he's looking at Ben Affleck like he grew 2 heads or something. He looks so fucking confused.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's like, can you put a feeler out? Like, you asking me to put a fish out that's gonna know what's going on? Like, is that what you're asking me? Like, because that's how I took it. Like, that's how I took what he was saying, but it didn't make any fucking sense. Like, I couldn't tell if the scene was like meant to be like a joke, or if it was like meant for something to like be like, hey, this is what Aquaman can do. He can talk to the oceans. Like, I didn't know what the hell they were trying to go for in that scene, and that's what makes it so cringe and awkward, because like it's just such a bad scene, and I really feel like it was like that 30 seconds of dialogue could have just been cut. And it would have made the movie a little bit better. We didn't need it. Exactly. We didn't need it at all. Like, it brought no relevance to what was going on at all. So basically, what happens next? Superman's at his house. He's reflecting. Lois Lane tells him, "Oh, you got to go back and help them, Clark. They need your help." And then he's like, "Oh, I don't want to." And then she's like, "No, you have to. And there's stuff going on, Clark." And then, of course, you already know he's going to show up.
Down. like that's how they're talking.
But that's essentially what happens. Like, he's like, "No, I just came back. I want to spend time with you, Lois." And she's like, "Oh, I made a deal with him. I wanted him. He told me that he wasn't going to return you dead anymore, or return you dead again." And then they joke and they laugh about that, which again is very Superman-esque. Like, I can see Superman laughing about something like that, but again, it was another scene that the movie really just didn't need. Like, did we really need that? Did we?
No, I get what they're doing. We need that part where he's trying to connect back with Lois, and this is what he always wants to do, because basically Superman in this universe, if it was up to him and there was no crime or anything, he would just stand there in the field with Lois every single day, 24 hours. So that, they wanted to do that, and he needs to get that out of the way. And then it goes back to Aquaman talking to the whole team, and he's spilling his guts out, having a heart-to-heart, how he thinks they're all going to die, and he thinks Wonder Woman's hot, and he's afraid that he didn't do much with his life. And then you find out that he's spilling all this shit out because the lasso was around him, or he was sitting on it or some shit, right?
Yeah, well, Barry put the lasso on him, and again, it's another ha-ha, I'm going to feed you to my piranhas that I know. And then Barry's like, what did I do? I didn't do it. So, again, another unnecessary joke, in my opinion.
There has to be one joke in this movie that works for you, man. There's got to be one.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff is definitely a miss for me, and the type of shit that I laugh at. So, yeah, jokey joke man, Whedon, write better jokes, please. Anyway, so they get to the part in Russia. Sorry. I'm going to repeat that real quick. That was a burp that I had, and I was trying to like hold it back without sounding like a fucking dickhead. So, I don't know. Give me some silence. So they go to Russia, and Batman has this plan of dropping himself off in the Batmobile, and he's just going to drive around, I guess essentially distracting them. Because, Steppenwolf's got all 3 mother boxes, so, he's starting to go through with his plan. And, I really feel like a lot of this stuff we don't really have to go into because it's pretty much standard cookie-cutter team-based movie kind of tactics. Like, they fight, it seems like everything is going very well for them. And then, like, later on, Superman ends up showing up. But also, I just wanted to ask you, were you a fan of my man?
I love how you're always asking me about, like, the jokes, or you're always asking me about like the weird stuff in the movie. But I don't know. I know. Let me think. So they're flying through. It's a big part because Aquaman's falling from the sky. He's like, "Oh my god, what am I going to do? I can't fly." And Cyborg's grabbing him out of the air. And it's supposed to be team camaraderie. He's like, "Oh my god, this guy's kind of cool." And he turns around on him. He's like, "My man." And I think it's the fact that it's been memed so much since then. It's just, I laugh every time I see it, and I don't know. I don't know what else they could have done at that part, but I just think it was very funny. That's all I can say about that. And the ending as a whole, it's very cookie cutter, as you said. It's the superhero team taking on the big bad guy, and here's the fight. Although I would disagree with you. At one point, you said everything seems to go well. I think the movie looks like it seems to go well for a bit, but then everyone starts getting fucked up. Like, shit starts happening to them. I think like stuff falls on Wonder Woman. And
Aquaman,
and Aquaman, and then it seems like they might start to be getting to a point where they're getting messed up, and then that's when Superman comes out because he's the beacon of hope, as all of these movies have shown he is, and not gloomy and depressing at all. And then he comes and helps everybody out, and this is like Superman that we haven't really seen before, but I kind of dig it. I actually see that the costume is brighter. Henry Cavill's like a smile on his face, taking him on. He uses his freeze breath.
Yeah. Did you mute yourself by mistake, dude?
Wait, was I muted the whole time?
No, you say he uses his freeze breath, and then you just kind of like abruptly like cut like the silence.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, let me go back to that part.
Okay.
I see him use his freeze breath, and I thought that was really awesome. We haven't seen him do that before, and out of nowhere, it's almost like, hey, Soups, where you been? We missed you too. Batman's here too. Say hi. Like, it's crazy. How did this happen?
Yeah, and he shows up. He's like, "Well, I'm a fan of justice," and then he like punches the fuck out of him. I think it's like hilarious.
He like abruptly punches them too. It's like, ugh.
He just says the dude flying back. That shit is funny. He's like, "Well, I'm a fan of justice." He's like, "Ugh!" And he just goes flying.
He does, man. That's just funny. But sorry, go on.
I think it's so funny how like they essentially have like zero problems after Superman shows up. Like,
nah, man, he comes through and he's clutch. He's he just brings everyone back and they start kicking ass again.
I will say I like the playful banter between Superman and Barry because slowpoke, because I mean if anybody's going to keep up with Barry is going to be Superman. Obviously Barry's always going to be always end up being faster, but Superman can definitely keep up with him.
I actually disagree with you there. I think you're wrong because that's not the best banter. The best banter is when he talks to Bruce again and he's like, "Oh,
you stole it from me." Yeah, he's like, "Oh, well, I see you don't hate me enough to bring me back. I don't not hate you."
That's the part where everybody watches Winston so hard. The part where everybody watches Winston so hard they just go to sleep. It's the best part.
It's so bad. Like, I don't not hate you.
I can just see Joss Whedon dying behind the camera, like rolling on the floor laughing.
Do you know that he's the type of dude that just think the dumbest shit is like the funniest shit ever? Like
fucking mean slapping, yeah.
Like, oh my god, I'm gonna have an awkward interaction between Bruce and Clark, and he's gonna be like, "I do not hate you."
It's funny because they fought in the last movie, but this time they're friends.
I was like, dude, that's honestly like that's honestly probably number 2 as like the worst part of cringe besides the breakfast shit.
Sorry,
so,
I'm trying to move on, but
so you fast forward, and I know I've been saying this a lot. You might need to get a counter for this too. Fast forward, Steppenwolf comes back, and I think it's so funny how like as soon as Steppenwolf comes back, Superman's like, "This guy's giving you a problem," and he proceeds to beat his ass again.
Like he pounds the shit out of this dude like it's nothing.
He swoops around the corner, he flies down the atomic core. He's like, "Is this guy giving you a problem?" Fucks his ass up again.
He flies. Like not only does he get down, he flies when he hits him. Like holy shit,
dude! He pummels him into the ground. He punches him like twice, and then he picks him up by the shirt of his chest and tosses him into the fucking wall.
Tosses him. He like, fucking tosses.
Like I don't understand. I really feel like in the comics, Steppenwolf would have really put up a much better fight than he did in this movie, but they really just like shoehorned the fuck out of him after Superman showed up, man.
Yeah, I don't know if there was like a way they could have found some balance of where it still would have been a real tough, engaging fight. But then they want him to come back and be the big hope. You know, they want Superman to come back and the audience starts cheering. So I guess they just decided they'll have him just smack him around like it's no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been what it was. I mean, you got to keep in mind, too, they wanted this movie under 2 hours with credits, so that really only brings
we can't be dragging this fight scene out, guys. We only have so much time.
Well, that's the thing is, like, if you're going to include credits to be under 2 hours, you got to be at least an hour and 50 minutes of just, like, nothing but movie.
Right,
and then you have, like, the rest of it being credits, which is, like, hilarious to me. So...
I can't get over the fact, man. He comes over and he's just, ugh!
Especially that first punch. That first punch is just so abrupt. He's like, I'm also a fan of justice. He punches us so hard there's a fucking shockwave behind it.
All right. I think I'm
good.
Good.
And then he has the nerve to pick him up by his shirt and tosses him over to the fucking wall like he's his bitch. It's like, move, bitch.
He can't even give him the respect to, like, grab him by the neck or something. He's just, like, grabbing him by his fucking clothing. Like trash.
He's like, move, fucker. So you get to the end, and I think this is really, like, the part where they, like, really lay it on him because he gives, like, because he shoots out his frost breath, and then Wonder Woman comes out and breaks his axe, his battle axe, and it shatters with her sword. And of course, like, I kind of thought this was weird. Like, all of a sudden, he loses the fight, and he knows he's lost. But like, the parademons turn on him because they smell fear, which I'm like, okay. So. They ended up sucking him back up into Apocalypse, and that's it. Like, you don't see anything else of him again.
How satisfying. That was great.
Again,
that was a very satisfying end to a very satisfying villain.
Again, just very, like, standard cookie-cutter superhero-esque kind of things. And, yeah, I mean, that whole scene basically ends with them, you know, Flash giving a slow-motion fist bump to Cyborg. They're looking over the stuff that happened in Russia, and pretty much Bruce Wayne buys back Martha Kent's house for Superman, which, you know, of course, is the least that he could do for him. And then on top of that, they also make a reference to the Hall of Justice, you know, indicating that there's going to be more superheroes to join the table. And then also it ends with a memoir from Lois Lane talking about, oh, heroes this, heroes that. And you know, it shows all of them doing their own thing, and that's how the movie ends.
But you missed one of the best jokes in the movie, where they're asking him how he got the bank to give back his house. He's like, well, I bought the bank. Wasn't that funny? He laughed.
I bought the bank. I bought the bank because I'm millionaire Bruce Wayne, and I own everything. All right.
So that's the end of the movie, and that completes the very anticipated, long-awaited first live-action Justice League movie that was supposed to compete with Avengers-level movies. Now, I know we went over a bunch of shit here. Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, we can't get around
300. What was the budget? 300 million, and it barely made half of that back.
Like, 300 million is what they're reporting, but with reshoots and everything included, there's rumors that it could be even as high as 360, 370, which is fucking amazing. Yeah.
I mean, and the fact that it barely made, it didn't even make 660 back is just such a failure. Like,
it was a failure, man. It was absolutely a failure. That wasn't even close to what they needed to break even, and they lost a shit ton of money on that. And, you know, with what we have, I know we know about the production. We know there was a lot of things that fucked up besides the movie itself. But, I mean, is it the worst thing ever? There has to be some things that you do like about the fact that this movie was made, right?
No, it's definitely not the worst thing. I will watch this movie over Batman vs. Superman any day. I mean, again, there are some cool things in the movie. You know, the fact that you get to see everybody on screen with each other. The fact that Batman acts like Batman, Superman acts like Superman, you know, for the most part, or some of the parts, I guess, is a cool thing to see. I do think a lot of the times in this movie, the bad definitely does outweigh the good. I think when I rewatched this movie when it first came out, I was like, okay, this is pretty okay. I mean, it's not the best, but it's definitely not the worst either. But when I watch it now, I'm just like, nah, this is pretty bad. And to be honest, like, I have to rank it lower than I did when I originally watched it a couple years ago.
I feel like that's something that works against this movie, to be honest, man, because first time watch, when you're really just taking everything in and some things are passing you by because it's your first watch, you don't really pay attention and stuff. I think that's the best way that the movie comes off, because I feel like just looking at everything that you see surface value, there's really not a whole lot that you can point out that's really bad or things that don't work. As a superhero movie, it's as standard as you're going to get, man. Like, that's pretty much what superhero movies are at the base foundation. I think rewatches and aging is what really brings this movie down, because after a while you just start seeing everything else and things just become more apparent. And I guess that's true with every movie, but something about Justice League is more apparent. Like, you just start noticing way more things than other movies.
Something about superhero movies that's just way more apparent. Like,
I think
when you watch like other genres, like, it's not that big of a deal. But like when you watch superhero films, I think what it is that a lot of people, like, you know, like you and I myself, just get caught up in that fantasy. And because we read the comics, we have like these, you know, neutral expectations of what it is that we want and what we think we're going to get.
Sure.
And then when we get it, we're like, oh my God, that was so okay, or that was like pretty decent. And then, like you said, we go back and rewatch it and we're just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is not as good as I thought it was. Like, what the hell is happening?
Exactly, yeah.
And I do think, you know, and it does suck. Like, it does break my heart that Zack Snyder's daughter did pass away while he was just shooting this movie. I mean, as a parent myself, that would be a horrible thing to hear, and I can't even imagine what was going on with him and his wife when that happened.
Right.
It's just horrible. I don't like the guy as a director when it comes to superhero films, but I mean, I can respect his work as a director, and I don't wish that kind of pain upon anybody. I will say that I do think that they try to make it seem like this movie is more of his thing than it actually is. Yes. Because I really do feel like this movie was 20% Zack Snyder, or maybe even 15, and it was 80-85 Joss Whedon.
Right. And DC tried to put it out there and say that about 70% of the movie was completed, and then Joss Whedon came and reshot and finished about 30%. And I feel like that was being way too generous. I don't know why they were trying to skew it that way, because it doesn't feel like that at all. Whether it's true or not, I just feel like that's not, because I just don't feel all these Zack Snyderisms as they're so apparent in Man of Steel and BVS, and this just feels too different. It's a tonal shift. Now, whether some parts are better or worse, it's still very different, and I feel like it's probably more Joss Whedon than they're leading on to believe, for sure. And
I agree. And let's just say in an alternate universe, right? You know, I'm not even going to get into the Snyder Cut psychobabble because my head hurts just thinking about it. But let's just say in an alternate universe, he got to make his movie. And, you know, we got this apparent Justice League trilogy that we were supposed to get that we didn't get now, right? I do think that, let's just say in this alternate reality that this did happen, I think BVS would have been a really good movie. In hindsight, compared to what his original plan was, I think it probably would have lined up to be a pretty decent film. And I think the thing is that I do think if we got all these movies as a whole together, maybe this universe wouldn't be so bad. But because they were, fairly, well recepted or recepted, and the fact that it made Warner Brothers and DC kind of panic, and, we never really got to see his full vision, that's probably why these movies don't hold up as well as they do now, in my opinion.
That's fair. I would agree with that. I think also maybe some spacing. I don't know if there was pressure from Warner Brothers or DC to really try and play catch up to Marvel, and we got to get this movie out of the way. We got to get to Justice League right now because they're already working on this Avengers movie. And I think maybe just some more time and care taken into focusing on certain characters at a time to actually have a build-up definitely would have helped a lot. And the whole aging part of this movie, it's not exclusive to just DC movies. I feel the same way, for example, about Age of Ultron. First time I saw it, I really enjoyed it. And now when I watch it back, I think it's aged pretty bad and I don't like that movie. So it's not just exclusive to that, in my opinion. I think that there could have been something special if we saw Zack Snyder's verse. Wait, what?
Age of Ultron is a fun movie to look at, but it's not a fun movie to watch because I don't think it's that good either. When I watch it, I'd rather watch it on mute because I'm like, okay, I don't really have to hear anything that's going on. Like, I can just see, oh, hey, Captain America's doing this, Captain America's doing that. But, I don't want to watch it because I know it's not that good of a movie. And before people sit there and say, oh, you guys just shit on DC, no, I like DC and Marvel films. I thought, as you guys heard us earlier, we think Wonder Woman was pretty decent. I love Aquaman. I think that Shazam was okay as well. It's just that when garbage and, mediocrity is put in front of me, and no matter whether the product is, something that I love and I adore, if it's trash and I don't like it, I'm going to speak up on it. It's the same thing with the MCU. I'm not an MCU shill either. There's plenty of Marvel movies that I don't like. I don't like Ant-Man and the Wasp. I do not like Age of Ultron. I think it's one of the worst Avengers movies. What else is also kind of in this? I mean, in Marvel.
This is all opinion, guys. Again, at the same time, I personally like to see what I get out of a movie, how it makes me feel. If I feel there was something under the surface, if there's substance more than just what I'm seeing on the screen, that's big points to me. And I mean, I'm not a fan of all Marvel movies. I don't like Ant-Man and the Wasp at all. I'm not a fan of Captain Marvel. Again, that's divisive, but that's just me.
The first Thor is boring as hell.
I don't like the Dark World. There's plenty that you can choose and see, and that's fine. And again, like we said in the beginning, not everything has to be mind blowing. But just I feel like it might sound like maybe we're just analyzing on things we don't like, but that's just because we're going play by play by the movie, and I think that's just what we find interesting discussion. But at the end of the day, whatever you like is whatever you like, and there's nothing wrong with pointing out things, even in movies that you do like, for example. And how would you feel about if we did get Zack Snyder's movie in this current universe? Do you think it would have been better or worse than what we got? Because I know you don't hate Zack Snyder as a person. You just don't really like all of his superhero directing. So any thoughts on his Justice League if it was to happen, because it's not real right now?
Well, there are rumors that he was going to bring Green Lantern in, and, because apparently the first trilogy that he had, or first movie, was that the Justice League was going to lose, and then the second movie was going to be about them finding a way to go back in time to time travel to undo everything that happened, which, hence the nightmare sequence. And then I guess the third movie was them going to be coming back from time and pretty much retconning, I guess, the whole universe. And I think if that would have been done, I mean, again, it's always really hard to say, oh, this would have been better or this would have been shit, because who knows? He could have had his Justice League and it would have been complete trash, and we could have potentially hated it more than we hate Batman versus Superman.
It could have been two movies originally as opposed to his one that DC later said, DC's just been changing and they've been so frantically trying to keep up with trends instead of just doing their own thing. I think that's kind of what's been shooting them in the foot. But it does seem like they're finally wanting to stop focusing so much. They've announced they don't want to focus so much on these team up movies. Just make your own movies. And we're getting stuff here and there that's very different. So for now, I think we can just take it for what it is. And see if hopefully we get something great. And I know we got this Batman coming up, so that will be a big turning point one way or another, I'm sure.
And I gotta say, everything that has to do with that movie, I am completely lukewarm and neutral about.
As we say every episode.
Nothing about this, nothing about this movie really has me excited for it. Not only because of DC's most recent track record, but a lot of the casting to me is just not very exciting. Like when I heard about Ben Affleck being cast as Batman, like I was amped. I was like, oh yeah, I can kind of see Ben Affleck as Batman. And that was squandered potential. Like it didn't go anywhere. But then I hear about Robert Pattinson. I'm like, maybe he's got Bruce Wayne-esque looks. Possibly. But then, again, I'm hearing that he's having a hard time putting on muscle. So again, that's another thing that does not make me excited for this movie either.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I've heard people saying that he's getting jacked. People saying he's getting super jacked.
Oh, just because he has abs and he's at, 7% body fat with barely any muscle definition in his arms or back or shoulders, that means he's getting jacked? Okay.
Well, you were mentioning something else about who?
I mean, Andy Serkis playing as Alfred, he always strikes me as like a very goofy kind of guy. And I don't really see him playing Alfred, in my opinion. Like, yeah, he may get the look for him, but I just don't really see the direction behind it. Also, the weird suit that we've seen on the bike, the weird looking Predator bracelets that he's got on his arms, like, it's not really doing it for me. Everyone loves to sit there and say, it's a stunt suit, it's a stunt suit. Okay, well, how much time is he going to spend in the stunt suit? Like, how much time is he... I mean, yeah, I get it. They're probably reshooting things. I understand. But the suit looks pretty permanent to me to where it's not going to be a quote-unquote stunt suit. So I really hope it's not the final product. I really hope a lot of the shit it is that we're seeing is kind of like, and maybe kind of like teaser-ish type of stuff. Like, obviously they're probably going to edit and change things. And that's really more or less what I'm hoping that it is.
Definitely. Right now that movie is on halt for production because of everything going on. Reason being is why we're going through all these DC movies. And hopefully that starts clearing up soon because we're actually getting close to finishing or catching up on our DC movies all the way to what we have currently. And I'm kind of excited for next time because I know we're going to cover some that I'm a big fan of. I know you are too. And we can start getting stuff in theaters again, which will be great. So this has kind of been an interesting ride going over all these movies, I think.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, it sounds like our state is going to be returning to some kind of normalcy starting next week. I can only hope. So, unfortunately, Spiral did get delayed till next year. I think a lot of these companies and by the way, before we continue, my final verdict on Justice League is a 5 out of 10.
5. All right. For this one, I will have to be generous, and when it comes to how badly things went behind the scenes, it's apparent in the final product, but it's not as terrible as I think it could have been. I think there are some parts that do serve some of the characters well and give some people what they wanted from different ones. So I'll be nice and say if I had to give it one at gunpoint, 6 out of 10 for me. Definitely could have been worse, but I understand where you're coming from, especially since you did like it, and a rewatch just didn't help you with that. So it is what it is.
Hey guys, Christian here from the podcast. I also take care of the very subpar editing, and I just wanted to give some context for ending this episode abruptly here. This episode was a bit of a mess to put together. Our original recording for the second half did not work out, so we actually have to go back and re-record that a week later. A little bit of a mess, and we also talked about Fantastic Four towards the end here, but I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. I feel like this is a bit too long. I'm sure many of you agree if you even made it this far. But we'll probably see if we can put a clip out of that discussion later and release it some other time. But again, sorry for the abrupt ending here. We thank you very much for listening, and all of our contact information will be in the description, either on YouTube or the podcast notes. Thanks for checking out Back to Formula. We always appreciate you.